Good evening and welcome back to College Press Box. I'm Trinity Jason hosting with Joaquin Alvarez tonight. Before we get started, we wanted to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride this weekend to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. Texas fans will have to wait until April 23rd for the first round of the NFL Draft to see where their favorite Longhorns end up. The clock hits 12 and the Cinderella story for Texas men's basketball has ended. As for women's basketball, they have advanced to the Elite Eight, and next they will face number 2 Michigan. Let's send it over to Joaquin and Aiden to talk more about the NCAA tournament.
Thanks, Trinity. After going 1-4 in the last 5 regular season games and barely squeaking into March Madness after a first 4 win, Texas men's basketball had danced all the way to the Sweet 16. And on the flip side, Texas women's basketball punched their ticket to an Elite Eight appearance versus the Michigan Wolverines. I'm here with Aiden Erbach to break down the Longhorns tournament runs and futures for both the men's and women's basketball teams. Great to have you with us, Aiden. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Joaquin. Thanks for asking. I'm kind of a little puzzled, especially what's going on in men's side basketball with Texas basketball in their late success with their run.
Absolutely. This tournament delivered Cinderella runs and statement upsets like no other, and none bigger than Sean Miller's Texas squad. From a last-second dagger in Dayton to a West Coast-style Sweet 16 feature, taking down NC State, BYU, and Gonzaga before a heartbreaking loss to Purdue. So, Aiden, what went wrong for the Longhorns Thursday night in San Jose, and what should fans look out for heading into a still relatively new Sean Miller era?
Well, Joaquin, I just want to say for this full disclosure, I didn't think this team was even going to have a chance of making a shot at this tournament in the first place, as I thought, 2 weeks ago when they lost a 15-seed Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, I thought that was pretty evident that they were going to go on a Southwest Economy Plus ticket back home to Austin, which is what they deserve. But still, this team was determined to make a statement, and they did so, as you mentioned, beating those prolific teams such as BYU and Gonzaga. However, I think the underlying factor that we saw that Texas couldn't get on that stretch and beat Purdue on that run came down to free throw shooting and conceding late fouls. I mean, Texas struggled with that all season. When you get down to these later stages of the tournament, playing evenly matched teams like we saw against Purdue last Thursday, it's going to come down to the wire. Making your free throws and simply not fouling late is going to be paramount. Purdue were more successful than the Horns in that category as they went to the cherry strike 20 times compared to Texas's 15 and shot 75%, while the Horns shot a wobbly 53. This was also more shown in the second half, as 13 of the Oilers' points came from the line, while Texas only saw 7. In addition, Texas had a huge problem fouling late during the regular season, and that came back to haunt them in this fixture, as last Thursday, as 2 of their starters, Cam Heide and Matsis Vokatitis, had to miss valuable minutes due to being in foul trouble. But to answer that second part of your question, this was a great first year for Sean Miller's crew that saw a lot of new faces, a lot of new SEC action, and besides the team losing Trayvon Mark and Jordan Pope, who were both critical in the team's run to the Sweet 16, Texas is expected to retain a lot of their players, including key front court pieces like Matas Vokatitis, as I mentioned, and Nick Cody, along with experienced guards like Simeon Wilcher, who came from St. John's last year, and even Cam Heide as well from Purdue. Arguably their best player and their most consistent player, Dalen Swain from declaring they could be stealing him from the NBA draft, a guy who had an excellent newcomer season in the SEC after playing 2 seasons with Miller at Xavier. The one thing I like to stress on is Texas, they have to do a better job making more of a presence in the portal. They were top 25 in the portal. They need to be closer to that top 5 seed, as you see with Michigan and Iowa, some of these bigger teams, St. John's, who made bigger runs, even bigger runs than Texas. They have to be more receptive in the bubble as it comes in a couple months.
I like what you said about placing more emphasis on the transfer portal. I think that's sort of been the new wave in basketball and has been a huge success for programs like Michigan and Iowa, who have made deep runs in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how Texas figures it out in the next couple of months. But moving on to the women's side, Texas has found overwhelming success all season, winning the SEC tournament in Greenville a couple of weeks ago to now have a great success in the dance. What for you has been the keys to victories in the Horns' stifling tournament success?
Well, Joaquin, I know every time I ask Vic Schaefer and his players that question, they always going to point to their defense, saying it's their keys to their identity. But I think their scoring has been the difference here in these last 3 rounds that they played in, specifically in their front court, averaging around 42 points in the paint. Madison Booker and Jordan Lee have been the keys to success for the Longhorns with their scoring, especially on the interior. So I think it's UT's ability to score and get clean looks is what's driving them and serving them well as they face perennial powerhouses like UCLA, South Carolina, and UConn, all of whom are 1 seeds and are still in the tournament as we approach Final Four time.
Touching on those teams that you mentioned, UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, whom, as you put it, are still in the dance. Now, Aiden, what do the Longhorns have to do as they face at least 2 of those teams in the Final Four?
Well, Joaquin, good news for the Texas Longhorns and their faithful. The Texas Longhorns have already played 2 of those teams with South Carolina and UCLA earlier in the season, so they have a little freshing prepare with experience in those 2 fixtures. But I think defense will be the determining factor in how well the Longhorns perform against these blue blood programs, as all 3 of our top 10 in scoring and literally 1, 2, and 3 in field goal percentage. Now the Longhorns pride themselves on how well they defend, specifically their scoring defense and how they can get after you winning the rebound battle. Categories the team ranks top 20 in. And I think, of course, the Horns have done a great job over the years, and I think if they want to continue to do it, they have to specifically force those turnovers like we saw in the tournament and continue to win the rebound battle. I think that will be the key going on as you mentioned, they either face South Carolina, UCLA, or UConn. I think that will be the difference matcher. And I think toughness will be the key word. I think the toughest team wins the battle, as Vic Schaefer says, and I think that will be the key if they want to win their first NCAA tournament since 1986.
Well, only time will tell if the Longhorns will be able to keep up their success in the NCAA tournament. Thanks for joining us, Aiden, and back to you at the desk, Trinity.
Solid work, Aiden and Joaquin.